Welcome back to the Victorian Alliance Home Tour. I'm Bonnie Spindler, your host. This segment, we're going to be looking at taking care of old houses, restoration. Restoring an old house is an act of love. It is not easy, and if you're lucky, all the pieces are still in there somewhere and all it needs is a good cleaning. If you're not lucky, you're trying to restore it back to the way it was. And sometimes you can tell the difference and sometimes you can't. So let's take a look at the frustrating but very rewarding act of restoring a Victorian.
So we were really lucky in a lot of ways because in some ways this house was kind of like a time capsule of 1910. You know, the stained glass, the built-in, the murals, everything was still here, which we were really excited about. It really seemed like everybody who had lived in this house, every family that had lived in this house before us, loved it and understood what it was and that it shouldn't be changed. The one thing that I will say, and I'll probably be talking about this for the rest of my life because I can't get over it, is that right before the sale of this house in 2015, they actually spray painted the whole house white. They painted it for the first time in 105 years. I have basically spent the last 5 years removing that paint, which is crazy. It's quite a process to remove paint. It is possible, certainly. I don't necessarily recommend it, unless you're really into Zen experiences, because it does take a long time. So the room that I'm in right now, the dining room, this actually took me a year and a half to strip. And you use a heat gun, you use chemical strippers, and you use a ton of dental tools, and you just constantly pick that paint out. I think it was worth it in the end. I wish that it hadn't had to have done it. That would have made my life a lot easier, but the reward is in front of me right now. Remodeling this house has brought a ton of surprises, and the kitchen was a small little room, and there's a fourth bedroom down on this floor. And you always sort of wondered why they had bedrooms on this floor. Was there some old grandmother, for example, who lived down there? And I actually found out exactly who it was that lived in this room. And that's because as we were lifting up parts of the floor to save it, to reuse it in the kitchen, once we knocked down the wall in between the kitchen and the old bedroom, we found the advertisement underneath the floor of the guy who used to live in that room, a guy by the name of C.J. Peterson. He was a tailor, and he was the brother of the woman who lived in this house. That was kind of neat to find. Another cool thing that we found was I actually went to Denmark to go and do a little bit of research on the diary that I found. And when I was there, I realized that they actually don't have double hung windows in Denmark, the kind that go up and down. Pretty much everything is a casement or outswing window. And they're all in the exact same shape, basically, as what we have in our kitchen and one of our bedrooms upstairs, which I always thought was kind of a unique design. But literally every window in Denmark looks exactly like that, which was kind of a cool find.
In 1970, I was working up in the mountains, and I came down to visit some friends and drove by this house and saw that it was for sale. Well, they were drug addicts. The people living here were taking kids off the drug trip and putting them onto the God trip. They paid no attention whatsoever to the house itself. They had advertisements in all the junk hotels in town saying, if you're strung out on drugs, come to 959 South Van Ness. They had a big sign out front. And for many years after I bought the place, I got people pounding on the door in the middle of the night trying to get in. They were heavily into prayers. These rooms that you see were their prayer room and their dining room. They put up some really ghastly whorehouse red flock wallpaper in the dining room that was it made it impossible to eat there. The house was in really very bad shape. Every now and then one of the kids would go on a rampage and break out a window, for example. I've pretty well exorcised the house since they left. The turret was missing when I bought the house, and I'm sure the reason is that in the old days, they didn't have galvanized nails and things like we've got today. And the nails that held the shingles on it just rotted away, and shingles began to blow away, and it leaked, so they removed it. The actual finial was here for many years, but by the time I got around to doing it, that had also disappeared. I studied the problem for a long time, trying to figure out how to do it. And then I was lucky to get some photographs taken of the house when the tower was intact. That helped to give me some ideas of how big it should be and so forth. In the end, I built the turret on the ground, on a garage that was of sorts that was there then, and had it cherry-picked up into place. And I was able to watch it dropped into position. And then the problem was that the guy working the cherry picker couldn't see the hole that the finial had to fit into. So they put me in a bosun's chair, and I carried the finial all the way to the top, dropped it into place. I had a camera with me, and I took a few pictures on the way down that I knew I was never going to get any other time.
When I was looking to purchase a home, I was hoping for something completely move-in ready, and didn't expect to do a big renovation. But when one of the Painted Ladies of Alamo Square came on the market, I just knew I had to look, and I fell in love with the home. And so now I have a large project ahead of me, probably 2 or more years of work in order to sort of restore, refurbish, and really bring this home sort of into current modern times. Part of it is going to be not only fixing up plumbing and electrical and the foundation of the home, but also restoring the period details. So the woodwork, the cornices, the plaster, all of that stuff. And it's going to be a long challenge, a big project, but should be a lot of fun. I'm actually really excited about it. I think that although it's a lot of work and take a lot of time, it's been really interesting. I've learned so much. I never would have thought I would be doing this or learning all about sort of every little aspect of completely remodeling a home. Just not even just the small finishes or details, the things that seem really fun, like picking out wallpapers and choosing colors for rooms, but really how the electrical works and sort of how to work with the city of San Francisco and the infrastructure here. So it's everything from top to bottom. I'm not living in this home during the remodel. There's a lot of work to do, and I also have a full-time job. So having a team of people to sort of help make this happen has been really important. I have a project manager who helps coordinate all the people. I have an architect, actually a team of architects, a landscape architect, a land use attorney, a project expediter, someone to advise us on the historical aspects of the home. So a whole lot of people are really working together. The home currently has beautiful details and fixtures. For example, doorknobs, hinges, cornices, beautiful plaster work with ceiling medallions, lots of beautiful woodwork. I'm hoping I can keep most of that's in good condition, and anything that's not in great condition, I'd love to rebuild and restore. For example, there's a beautiful bathroom on the second floor that's original to all of the homes, and I'd like to figure out if I can repurpose and keep using that bathroom. I'm really excited to restore this beautiful staircase in this home. It has all the original woodwork at the main level, but as it goes up, some of it has been sort of modified and changed. And I'm looking to sort of rebuild the staircase, but also potentially make it a little bit safer. So, staircases used to be a little bit lower with the handrails, so maybe potentially raising the handrails, sort of bringing it into modern times in terms of safety.
Plaster is a building material which is based on the element of gypsum. Gypsum is mined from the earth, and then companies take that gypsum and add different elements of lime and different additives so that it becomes a powdered substance that when it's mixed with water, it can be used in different forms. It can be used to do wall surfaces, or it can also be used to pour into molds, which is what I do. And what really the Victorians delighted in was creating these wonderful organic shapes that would drip and drape off of the ceilings and the walls. And so that is where flexible molds came in handy, because it just saved having to carve all of those things out of wood. Those things could then be mass produced out of plaster at a much more reasonable price. And so originally the molds were made out of gelatin. So they would make one sculpture, and then they would pour the gelatin, and now we use rubber for the flexible mold part, and then that mold is then taken off, and that is a cavity into which then you mix plaster and pour the plaster into the mold, and once that hardens, you take the flexible mold off, and you have a wonderful, either a ceiling medallion with flowers and fruit, or brackets with leaves and angels dripping off of the ceiling. So the Victorians delighted in that. An owner may have a medallion that they absolutely love and want to keep because it's original to the house, and they want to use that medallion in other places in the house, in which case we would take that original down and bring it to the shop and restore it and make it look beautiful. Then we would make our mold of it in the shop and then be able to reproduce. Since I've been doing this for 35 years, I have a lot of molds and different patterns, and very often, as is the case here in this beautiful entryway, I happen to have this very medallion here, which is called our Fell Street medallion. So either we redo something that's already in your house, or you get lucky and you find something from my collection that you already have. Plaster is a sustainable building material. It is of the earth, and it decomposes organically, and it's going to turn back into crumbled gypsum and filter back into the earth at no great expense to the natural environment.
Thanks so much for watching, and join us next time when we talk about modern living in an old house.